What is going on? Welcome inside the Red Mile Rundown, episode 45. We are excited to be with you once again here on the podcast. Thank you so much for making us part of your podcast rotation. I am your host, Johnny Soap, and alongside me, as always, and ready for a bit of story time today, Robert Munich. How we doing, Robert?
I'm doing good. Coming off a big weekend with the Ryder Cup. Like, I'm a big golf guy, so I was glued to the Ryder Cup and so happy to see Team Europe win. Oh my God, I just could not stand those American fans. Just a bunch of scumbags out there in New York.
Yeah.
But yeah, NFL was great, and we got preseason's almost done. Thank the goddamn Lord. But I will say, I actually think the Flames preseason has been a little more interesting than I had originally anticipated. So that's been good.
After a, let's just call it what it is, after a boring offseason of nothing, of no storylines, and everyone talking Rasmus Andersson trade is the only thing they can come up with, there has been a ton of storylines around the Flames this preseason. You watch these games, you watch who's playing in these games, the goaltending battles, the rookies, all of that, the whole 9 yards. It's been a really exciting camp, and that fits perfectly, Robert, into what we're going to do on the show today and talk about storylines. So really excited for the game. For reference for the listeners as well, we are recording this game before the Flames play the Kraken in Seattle. So if any of our thoughts kind of mesh with that game, that's kind of why. But we're excited with the last couple preseason games here, Robert. Before we get into our storylines, this is the last week of preseason. Lots to watch here for you. How excited are you to see what the Flames are going to put out here on the ice over these last 3 preseason games?
You know what? Tonight, I'm actually not all that excited. The lineup they're sending to Seattle is not great.
No.
It'll be cool to see Dustin Wolf, and I believe Rory Kerins is getting another shot in this game, so that's exciting. But like, there's no Zayne Parekh, there's not too many veterans. So, but it's the last 2 games that I'm going to be looking forward to, because in one of those games, it's going to be Cooley or Prosvetov getting the start, and that'll kind of be an indication of who's going to be the backup, which is going to be exciting. And then we're also going to see what Ryan Huska has in mind in terms of lines and D pairings heading into the regular season, because I think in the last 2 games we're going to see Huska put together what he 100%. Thinks is going to be at the starting lineup. So from that perspective, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see those last 2 games. Tonight, an 8 p.m. game in Seattle with like not many veterans, like I could do without that. But the other 2 are going to be really fun.
Robert's only saying that because at the same time it's going to be Jets Dolphins in the NFL, and he's really torn to which game to watch. Let's be honest here. Of course, I kid. It's going to be, I think by the time a lot of people are listening to this show, Robert, we're going to see some cuts coming from the Flames. Guys sitting down as a Wranglers camp will get going this week for the AHL team. Some other people might be put back to some junior teams here, depending who gets cut around. So this week's going to be very interesting to see how people play out, how it shakes down, and fascinating to see how Ryan Huska does with these last 2 games at home in Calgary in the preseason as he gets close to his NHL roster. But before we get there, let's kick off some storylines here, Robert, of things that we're kind of watching this week, including the game against the Kraken in Seattle. Let's kick it off with my first topic, my first storyline, and a lot's been made about the Flames on the right side of the defense. A lot has been made about, well, Rasmus Andersson's still around, Zayne Pareks trying to find a job. I mean, we're good on the right-hand side. Let's focus a little bit more on the defense, though, here, Robert. Talk a little bit about that left side and the bottom part of this roster, because for me, and I don't know how you see this, but for me, you see a lot of 5, 6, 7 type defensemen, 8 defensemen, and no one's really taken the bull by the horn for those jobs, in my opinion. You've seen Bean be okay for times. You've seen Parekh get in there, and he's looked good. But you've seen Hanley struggle a little bit. You've seen Bahal struggle a little bit. Solovyov's been okay. Kuznetsov's flashed, but then he's also had some quieter periods. I don't know where you stand on all of this, Robert, but I really look at that bottom part of the roster on the defensive side, and I really wonder if the Flames are just going to lean back towards the veterans, given that no one's really stood out here and has stolen that job or have shown that should be their job. You wanted guys like Solovyov and Kuznetsov to really show that they're ready to take that next step into the National Hockey League. And even though they've flashed a little bit here, I don't think they've made themselves undeniable. Then you look at the veterans. I don't think Hanley's been undeniable, even though he'll probably make this roster. I don't think Bahal's been undeniable, even though he'll make this roster most likely. Miromanov's been invisible. Jake Bean's been only okay at times. So I don't know where you stand on it all, Robert, but I'm really looking at the bottom part of the defense here, and there's a lot of jobs still to be had and a lot still to be decided, in my opinion, here for the Flames.
Yeah, you're right when it comes to the right side of the defense. It's Uyghur, it's Anderson, it's Parekh. Those guys are in Sharpie, not even pen. They're in permanent marker
Yep,
on that side of the defense, which is actually it's really good. Like
I like it.
the right side of the Flames D is easily top 10 in the NHL. Probably it might even push top 5 without having done any research, but really, really strong. But then you get to that left side, and Kevin Ball's a lock. I think
He might be the only one.
Yeah, he's been just fine. He's been Kevin Ball, and then like you said, there's just no one's really stood out. Like I was really hoping a Yan Kuznetsov or an Ilya Solovyov, Grushnikov, like any of those guys could kind of step up and show that they're NHL players. And while they've had good preseasons, I wouldn't say they've had great preseasons, and I don't think they played well enough to the point where it's like, okay, it's obvious this guy needs to play in the NHL. Like Nick Cicek has probably outplayed them. So, yeah. Ryan Huska he's going to go with his vets. There's no doubt in my mind. I would be very surprised if Ilya Solovyov or Yan Kuznetsov, one of those guys, ends up taking that spot on the left side. Like it feels like it's Jake Bean. It feels like it's Joel Hanley, and that's how they're going to start the year. There's an interesting conversation to be had around should they carry 8 defensemen or 7? Because I would argue Pahal should probably be that number 6/number 7. It's like Pahal and Bean. But do they keep 8? And do they keep a Kuznetsov up? And maybe they try to work him into the lineup every now and then. Who knows? But I think they're probably going to go 14 forwards and 7D. But if they want like to have that extra pairing during practice, which I know coaches like to have, there's an opportunity for a Solovyov or Kuznetsov to earn that spot. But to actually start the season in Edmonton, I just don't see any of them making the opening night lineup as of right now. This
might be a fan thing and a social media thing, but I do believe the waivers will play a part in this as well. Do they think they can get Kuznetsov and Solovyov through waivers if they don't make the NHL roster, or do they just have to keep one around because they're afraid of losing them on waivers? That also goes versus what you were just talking about, the Robert, who makes this lineup here. If they keep a 14th forward, these guys have to go on waivers. But if they don't, and they go with eight defensemen, they can keep one of those guys from going on waivers. So it's an interesting balance the Flames will have to play as well. Which is,
are you worried about losing any of them though?
Truthfully, no. Maybe a team sees something in Solovyov as a bit of an upgrade on their 6-7, but I doubt it. At the same time, though, it's like you would have thought with the threat, I guess, lack of a better way of putting it, the threat of waivers, these guys would realize that, hey, my job's kind of on the line here. It feels like the last kick at the can for a guy like a Solovyov. Is he going to get passed by who's coming up behind him in the Flame system? Is he just not going to be good enough? Because like what I mentioned as well, these veterans haven't been undeniable. As much as we praised Hanley and what he did last year alongside Mackenzie Weegar, as much as people like to say what Pahal was doing last year and he could play the left side, these guys haven't been undeniable. No one can sell me that Jake Bean is the 6th best defenseman on this Flames roster. Like, you cannot sell me that. You can try, but I think you'll fail because given what we've seen on paper from Jake Bean. So you would hope that these younger players could have made that push and made it a little bit harder. But I think right now it's a pretty easy choice for Ryan Huska to just rinse and repeat last year's defense with the addition of Zayne Parekh. And it's a little bit disappointing. And we'll see if anyone can push their way into that conversation come at the end of the camp here.
The only thing that I think would worry me about losing Kuznetsov or Solovyov on waivers is just their size. Mm-hmm. Could there be a team out there that sees, Yan Kuznetsov, he's 6'4", 210. Ilya Solovyov, 6'3", 208. That's some really good size, especially in like your 5, 6, 7, 8 spots on your blue line there. Maybe there's a team out there that's like, we could take a risk or take a flyer on one of these guys. That's the only thing that kind of worries me about that. But so like for you, as of September 29th, what's your blue line looking like heading into the regular season? Like if you're Ryan Huska and Craig Connor, you're making the decisions. This is your opinion. Who do you see in like those bottom spots?
Yeah, this is a great question because this isn't what they're gonna do. This isn't. Because I'm gonna have the Stones to do something that I think some other fans want to do and that others are afraid might not happen. I'm gonna go with the really easy decisions of Weegar and Ball, Parekh. Obviously, Rasmus Andersson still around. all those 4 make the roster. It's pretty easy decisions there. I think Bahal makes this as my number 6 guy. And I think I'm going to take the opportunity here to have Bean as my 7 because I want to keep Kuznetsov around. I think he's earned an opportunity to maybe get a bit of a longer look. And I'm putting Miramanov on waivers. And I'm putting Sloviev on waivers. And I'm just
What
going
about Hanley?
And put the bell here. And then, sorry, yeah, I forgot to mention that. Hanley on that bottom pair as well. So I'm going to keep 8. I'm keeping 8 guys. So I put Hanley with Parekh on the bottom pair currently right now, personally. I put Ball with Uyghur and let Andersson and Parekh maybe ride together, seeing what you can get here. Veteran presence beside Parekh. I know they're both right-handed shots, but someone has to play on the offside here, and it maybe Andersson has the opportunity to do that and can flourish there. We haven't seen it yet, but I'm willing to give it a try because of what Parekh brings to the table here. So for me, it's the odd guys out are Miramanov and Solovyov.
That's fair. I totally agree on Miramanov. Like if it were up to me, I would go for pairings too. Mackenzie Uyghur, Joel Hanley. Just because I thought they were really good last year, and
fair enough. Yep.
Give them an opportunity again to show if they can continue that. And then Andersson, Ball, Parekh. Oh, now this is where it gets tough.
Yeah, that's why I just threw Andersson out there. I'm like, give it a try, because what's the worst that happens is you have to flip him and Uyghur.
Yeah, maybe like Parekh and like Pahal if they feel comfortable putting Pahal on his offside.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'd want to keep Yan Kuznetsov or Ilya Solovyov up, one of the two.
Yeah,
and just give them a chance. And I would have Jake Bean and Daniil Miramanov on waivers. Those guys would definitely be going down to the AHL if it were up to me. I don't understand the point in playing Bean. Bean is not part of the future of the Calgary Flames. Yan Kuznetsov or Ilya Solovyov could potentially be. And I'd rather them find out this season than string along Jake Bean for another year and then just let him walk as a UFA. And you potentially lose Kuznetsov either on waivers or, maybe they don't want to re-sign in Calgary and they want to go somewhere else. Like, find out what you have in these guys. Like, Jake Bean's not part of the future here. That's the part that really bothers me. But I just have this feeling Ryan Huska's going to go with Bean because he's just the safe option.
The only reason I keep Bean is because someone needs to sit in the press box, and he's the guy that you can sit for 15, 16 games at a time and then bring into the lineup, and he'll give you okay minutes for the 10 minutes you need him for. And so it really came down to Bean or Miramanov for me, and it really came down to Solovyov or Kuznetsov for me. I would like to have the stones and think that NHL GM would have the stones to keep Solovyov and Kuznetsov and waive Bean and Miramanov, but having Kuznetsov and Solovyov both up, if you're going to keep 8 defensemen and one of them sitting in the press box most nights, doesn't make any sense for me. So I went with one or the other in both categories there just to fill out my defense there. So but the argument can be made there. Like, Jake Bean's not part of this future, like you mentioned. Miramanov's clearly not part of this future. Who has a higher ceiling, Kuznetsov or Solovyov? Like, is Braden Pahal an everyday NHL defenseman? There's a lot of questions with this D here, and unfortunately no one stepped up and took that role, took those jobs. So now you're based off of what have you done for me lately, or what have you done for me in the past? And I think that's why Jake Bean will make this end of the day roster here.
Yeah. And like another way to view it too is, could you put Hanley down on the third pair with Parekh just to give him that veteran presence and then boost up a Solovyov or Kuznetsov to play with Uyghur? And then you give Andersson and Ball like the toughest matchups. And then you have Uyghur and Solovyov as like your number 2 pairing, and then Hanley, Parekh. Like that's another way you could potentially view it, because just nothing against Jake Bean. Like, he seems like a decent guy, but for the future of the Flames, like I just think Solovyov and Kuznetsov have a little bit higher of a ceiling, and I like their size and I like their physicality and their reach and all that kind of stuff. I think there's something there, and I just don't think there is with Jake Bean.
Yeah, fair. So, absolutely fair point.
And now keep in mind, this is all like, we're talking about like the number 6, 7, 8 spots.
You're in a hockey market win, right?
Totally. Like, you're just a psychotic hockey fan when you're debating this for 20 minutes. But I mean, what else is there to talk about in the preseason? Like, this is kind of what the preseason's all about, is like these sort of battles. It's an interesting conversation.
It really shows the philosophy of how you think versus how your buddy thinks versus how the Twitter people think versus how Huska thinks and what Conroy's going to do, type of thing. So it's a really interesting conversation. And the one thing I would say about this defense to wrap up the point here is I'm just a little bit disappointed that no one stood out above the rest of them. I just thought someone would come and say, hey, I am undoubtedly the guy to fit that hole, because there was clearly a hole on the left side of the Flames defense coming into this season. I'm the guy to fill that hole. Just kind of wish one guy would have stepped up and grabbed that, including Hanley. I don't think he's been all that strong, but an average and okay, and he's going to be there. Just need someone to step up a little bit more, in my opinion, early here in the season.
But you know Hanley's going to make it, and he's going to get big minutes because Huska really trusts him. Huska loves him.
Absolutely. Yeah. If they lined up on opening night and it's the old Hanley, Weegar, Ball, Anderson, I don't think anybody in Twitter should be surprised. Anybody in the universe should be surprised.
I can guarantee that'll be the top 4 to start the year.
Yeah, most likely. All right, Robert, what's your first storyline that you've been watching here this week for the Flames?
Rory Kerins. I know a lot of people are talking about him, but he deserves it because he's put himself in this position to seriously make a push to make the Calgary Flames this year. Like, I would argue, out of all like the guys who are pushing for a spot, like the non-veterans, he's been by far the best forward. I know Sam Morton's had some nice games too, but I do think Kerins has been a step above where Sam Morton's been. I think he's been better than Sam Honzek and Gridden and all those guys, and they've been fine. But I just think Kerins has really stepped up his game. And the thing with him is that he's just so smart. He's so smart. He's very skilled. He has really good hands. He's good around the net. He kind of reminds me of like Sean Monahan in the sense where like he's not going to blow you away with speed. He's not going to blow you away with like incredible skill and high-end flashy plays. It's just he just knows where to be on the ice. He makes a lot of smart plays. He's got really good hands. Like I said, he's good around the net. All those kind of elements that Sean Monahan had. And it's just like no matter where he plays, like the guy just produces. And I would love for this team to find a way to keep him, because I do think that he would get claimed on waivers. I think there's some teams out there that have little to no depth at the bottom of their lineups in their rosters. Like if I'm taking a look around the league, like, we were talking about before the show, Philly, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, what about Boston and like their fourth line? Anaheim's fourth line is a mess. San Jose, Seattle, like they're without Capo Caco. Could they use a guy like Kerins? The Chicago Blackhawks, like a lot of those teams just don't have a lot of depth right now in their forward group. And, picking up a guy like Kerins would make sense for them. So if I'm the Flames, I'm 100% making room for him. And whether that means that he's a healthy scratch for the first little bit of the season, that's fine. I just don't want to expose him to waivers because I really think he's deserved and earned a shot to play in the NHL. And, one way to do that would be maybe you sit Ryan Lomberg, which I know it's not a very popular opinion because he is so loved and he is a great leader and all that kind of stuff. But like, is he a full-time NHLer? Like, could you, rotate him and Kerins in and out of the lineup depending on who you're playing? So I've really liked his game. I think he's been really good, and I think he's been good enough to the point where he should make this team. I really do believe that. I don't know. Have you kind of seen the same thing with Kerins? Would you say that he's been kind of the standout at camp so far?
I look at the way Ryan Huska's used Kerins this camp. He's the only forward to play all, and he's going to play again against Seattle. He's going to play all 5 of these games that he could play in the preseason thus far. So for me, that's telling. That means the coaches want to look at something. That means the coaches see something. That means the coaches have a plan for this guy and that they really want to see him in a lot of different situations. He's played with a lot of different guys and style of guys throughout this preseason.
Center and wing.
Yeah, and he's played multiple positions. And so they really get an in-depth look on what Rory Kerins has brought to the table. And you can make an argument right now. I know a lot of people are like, well, the Flames already have 13 forwards. Well, go ahead and add another one, because I think he's easily been in the top 9 of the best Flames this preseason. You can make an NHL roster right now and have Rory Kerins on your third line. He's been better than Pospisil. He's been better than Farabee. He's been probably as good or better than Connor Zary, and I love Connor Zary. So he's been better than a lot of guys that have been right around where you would try to put him in your lineup. So if you had your opening day lineup and he, say, was on a third line with, say, just for some names, Zary and Frost, I wouldn't bat an eye. I really wouldn't, because that's how good he's been. He's excelled in a lot of different situations. He's been the best player on a couple of nights here for the Flames in the preseason. And if he's not been the best player, he's definitely been in the conversation to be in the best player. So I think the Flames have something here with Kerins. I wasn't sold he was a full-time NHLer. I'm still not sold he's a full-time NHLer. But this is a guy who's earned an opportunity to show what he has, and he could be an NHLer. And I think the Flames owe it to him to give him a job, much like they did with Sam Honzek last year. I think they should do the same thing with Kerins this year. He's been that good for me.
Yeah, and you said it perfectly. He's earned the right to get a shot. And I think that's all Flames fans are asking for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're asking Kerins to be a regular and play 82 games this year. I think they just want to see him get an opportunity, which I think is totally fair.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I've been talking about a lot on Twitter is just the idea of, could the Calgary Flames put together 4 good lines, 4 lines that could score goals, and basically like having 4 second or third lines, and can you create a forward group like that puts Rory Kerins into the lineup? I think that's probably the best way to do it, because, I want to see Kerins get some ice time. I want to see him play a little bit of 5-on-5. I don't want to see him get buried for 5 minutes at 5-on-5 on a fourth line. I think he could play on a fourth line. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like Andrew Mangiapane was playing on a fourth line for the Flames, and Derek Ryan was playing on a fourth line for the Flames. So that's not the issue for me. It's just more I just think he deserves just a more of an opportunity, and it almost makes you wonder, should they have made a trade this summer? Should they have used a buyout? Was the Frost Farabee trade necessary? Was it necessary to put Joel Farabee in the deal? Was the Yegor Sharangovich contract extension necessary? Because now, I look at this lineup and I'm just we need a spot for Rory Kerins. And I look at a guy like Farabee, I had mentioned it in the offseason. I'm they should buy this guy out. They could have bought him out basically for free. They would have had little to no cap charge against them. And it would have opened up a spot for a guy like Kerins. But they decided to stick with all these, third line NHL vets, and now there's not really a spot available for Rory Kerins, which is a little disappointing. So I just really hope that Huska and Conroy, they have a long-term approach when it comes to Kerins, and they actually give him a shot, because he deserves it. I think he's skilled enough. I think he's smart enough to play in the NHL. It's the thing that's holding him back, I think, is skating and size. Because, you take a look at his size here. He's 5'10", 175. So he's not a big player. And we know how much, hockey men love, big forwards. So
yeah,
we'll see how it all plays out. I'm almost thinking they're going to go with 14 forwards and keep Kerins on the NHL roster and eventually give him a chance to prove he can play in the NHL. But we've seen in the past, they're not afraid to throw these types of guys on waivers and keep veterans here in Calgary. So that's going to be the most interesting thing, when it comes time to setting the NHL rosters here. I think it's going to be Kerins.
I really hope that honesty is a thing for the Flames as well, that they're honest with what they have, who they have, and where they are in their development and where their players are in their development, because they keep talking about wanting to get younger and adding these young guys, and there are jobs and opportunities if these guys come in here and show they're willing to do it. Conroy said it more than once in the offseason that they will make room for guys who show that they have earned themselves a job. Well, now it's time for you to put your money where your mouth is. This is a guy who's come out here, unless he goes -9 the rest of his preseason and looks terrible, has earned himself an opportunity to be in this lineup. And you cannot tell me that he's not been one of the best Flame forwards that has played this offseason. You can't tell me Sharangovich has been better. You can't tell me that Farabee's been better. You can maybe put him in the same conversation as a Connor Zary, but he's been better than your fourth line guys. He's been better than Kirkland's been. He's a guy that has earned an opportunity, and whether you get him in the lineup, it's less about where he plays for me in the lineup, but who he plays with. So I like your idea of the scoring lines, Robert. That's really a nice one there. But get him in the lineup and give him an opportunity. The worst that happens is you're 3 games into your season, your record is what your record is, and Kerins has shown that he's not actually ready for this opportunity. Okay, then you go down that path and that avenue, and you can make the corrective course then. But show that you are willing to put your money where your mouth is, and that you're an honest organization in your dealings with your players and with your fans, and don't just have the word of mouth that Sutter liked to use a lot, where he just talked to talk. Let's walk the walk a little bit and show that you're willing to give these guys that opportunity. Rory Kerins has earned it, and he might be the only guy at camp that's earned an opportunity and a look further beyond preseason so far this just training camp. So give the guy some love.
And here's what I'm kind of saying when I'm talking about the 4 scoring lines. And
I love this idea.
Yeah, and like keep in mind that there's not a fourth line in this group. Like the ice time would be divvied up like pretty evenly for the most part. So like the last three guys I have on my list here aren't like your traditional fourth line that won't be played like a fourth line. So people come at me and say, "Oh, Connor Zary's not a fourth line center." Just there is no fourth line here. So like here's an idea. Just like Huberdeau, Kadri, Klapka. It worked at the end of last season. You know, it gets some size up on the top line. Like there's something maybe there. Coleman, Backlund, Coronado. They were really good together last year. Kerins, Frost, Sharangovich. That could potentially be a scoring line. And then Farabee, Zary, Pospisil. All of a sudden, you got like four solid lines that you can throw out there. Any of them can score goals. You don't have like a Kirkland, Lomberg, Pospisil fourth line where they're just going to bang and crash and they're not going to do much offensively. Like in this setup, you're able to get Kerins in. You're able to spread out the offense. And this Calgary Flames team, like, they don't have any star players. They don't have any elite talent. Like, I think Kadri will probably lead the team with like a little over 60 points this year. You have to have all four lines scoring if you want to have success. And one way to do that is to put guys like Farabee, Zary, Pospisil, and Kerins, Frost, Sharangovich in the bottom six. I don't know. Like, what do you think of that idea?
Well, this is
it's probably not realistic because Ryan Huska is going to want Lomberg in there, but I think it's a smart idea.
Yeah, they're not going to do it. Like I said, I love this idea. Like, this is a team that, if you go back, I believe it was 28 or 29th, they finished in average goals for per game last year in the National Hockey League. This is a team that doesn't score goals. They haven't scored goals at a regular pace for a long time. It goes back to probably Bob Hartley coach teams type that they never scored goals. So if you're wanting to generate and be, in their words, the 1 point better like they want to be, you need goals. You need to be able to score regularly. And that's how this is a great way to try to produce offense. You got a great defenseman coming in on the back end. That's going to be a good offensive driver in Parekh this season. We all believe and we all hope. Why not also have forward groups to match that, to help work as a unit to create some of these goals? I like that. I don't think the Flames go down that way, but that's a great and interesting idea, Robert.
Like, why wouldn't they? I would love to hear like Huska's perspective and philosophy when it comes to a fourth line. Why can't you recreate that Mangiapane, Ryan, Hathaway line that dominated and scored goals for that 18-19 Flames team? Like, why can't you recreate something like that? Why do fourth lines have to be just physical and in your face, chip it in, forecheck, and then get off the ice? Why does it have to be like that? Some of these coaches, they just really love what they call their energy lines, right? And it's just this old narrative that just never seems to die. In the National Hockey League, he's not the only coach that does it. You see a lot of those around the league where your fourth line is your quote-unquote energy line. But at the same time, you can put those guys on other lines and you can still have a nice energy line. You can't tell me that Karen's running around with other guys can't create energy, or Zary can run around with energy no matter who he's playing with. Pospisil is always a big ball of hate wherever he goes too, right? There's other ways to create energy, but for some reason, these NHL coaches, they like that one line they can put out there. Paul Maurice had one last year in the winning a Stanley Cup with it, right? So copycat league, you see the Panthers go win a cup with a quote-unquote energy line like that. People want to copy it rather than be innovative. Yeah, and you take a look at the Flames' fourth lines, basically since that Ryan Hathaway and Mangiapane line. Like, it's been like guys like Brett Ritchie and Nick Ritchie and Trevor Lewis and Brad Richardson, Milan Lucic, Kevin Rooney. Like, what are we doing here?
What a list of studs.
Oh man, like, just like, what are we doing? Like, can we not put out a better fourth line than that? And the thing that doesn't get talked about is like I said, this team needs four lines to score. They're not good enough to make the playoffs or make a run in the playoffs by relying on two lines. Like, they can't do it. They have to have four lines scoring. You're not gonna like if it's Lomberg, Kirkland, Pospisil or something like that, or Lomberg, Kirkland, Klapka. I don't think they're scoring that much. Like, I think you need some more offensive punch on that line. And yes, they can forecheck, and yes, they can play physical, but in today's NHL, you got to score goals, and we saw that last year. Like, if this team could have scored, a few more goals, they would have been easily in the playoffs.
Yep, absolutely agree. Good points there, Robert. Anything else on Kerins there from you?
I got nothing.
All right, let's move on then. As we continue to go through our storylines we're watching as the rest of the preseason training camp goes along here. And I want to do a quick one here. I know we already talked about the defense a little bit, but I wanted to just put in here Rasmus Andersson. I'm not talking Rasmus Andersson trade talk. I don't want that to be this conversation. I wanted to bring up what is Rasmus Andersson, because last year Rasmus Andersson struggled struggled hard, played through some injuries. He took a lot of heat last year, and a lot of Flame fans all of a sudden hate Rasmus Andersson, and they want to see him moved. And he got that entire treatment that we've seen from many defensemen in Calgary get. I kind of want to see what the bounce back of Rasmus Andersson can be for the Flames. He's going to be a pro. He's already showing up. He's already done all the stuff that the media wants him to do. The teams asked him to do. He's been a professional. He's been just fine in the preseason games we've seen him in. What kind of a bounce back can Rasmus Andersson bring to the Flames as long as he's part of the Flames? And how much value can the Flames get out of this player as they try to march towards their goal of being a playoff team? I'm really wanting to watch Rasmus Andersson closely, not because the trade might be looming, not because fans want to not see him sign to a long-term deal. I get all those conversations. I just purely want to look at Rasmus Andersson and see what value can he bring to offset last year. How much rebound is in Rasmus Andersson, knowing he has a contract extension coming his way, knowing that he has something to prove, and knowing that the Flames are going to reap all the benefits of what he can bring to the lineup. And then taking it a little bit step further, what kind of value does a guy like Rasmus Andersson have in the room for a guy like a Zayne Parekh, your younger players coming up? How much of a veteran leader can he be for those guys as long as he's around this Calgary Flames? And then the last point here, how much trust are we going to see from Huska to Andersson? They've said the right things. They've gone about it the right way, in my opinion. If you're going to keep him around, they've done everything what you wanted to hear and see. But how does that look when we get to game action? How does that look on game day? How does that look together as they work towards the common goal of winning hockey games and being a successful unit? So for me, a big storyline to watch is the use of Rasmus Andersson at the end of training camp here into the regular season, and what Rasmus Andersson can do to show his value and what he brings to a hockey lineup, whether it be for the Flames or down the road here somebody else. So that's what I'm kind of looking at here as my second storyline.
If the Flames are going to be a good team this year, Rasmus Andersson has to play to the level that we know he can.
Good point.
There's no way this team can make it if he doesn't get back to playing the way that he was, the prior 3 or 4 seasons before that. So he's going to be a big part of this team. If they want to push for the playoffs, they're going to have to keep him, probably well into like the Olympic break or right up to the deadline. I really think they're going to have to do that if they want to be a competitive team, because I think putting Zayne Parekh in a top 4 situation of 5-on-5 is, especially early on this season, is asking a lot of a 19-year-old. And I don't know if that's very fair for him. So the whole Andersson situation is fascinating. The one angle I'll take on Andersson here is last week, like we heard a bunch of stuff like Rasmus Andersson's open to staying in Calgary. And, if the Flames get off to a good start this year, should they re-sign him? No, they shouldn't. What are we talking about here?
I hate that conversation.
I hate it so much. And like Craig Conroy's like, well, look what happened with Brock Besser. Like the Canucks weren't going to sign him. All of a sudden they signed him. That's a terrible example. You don't want that to happen. Like with Brock Besser, they held on to him post-trade deadline. They got no assets for him. And had the Canucks, if they were able to make a trade at the draft, or if they were able to sign a high-end free agent, Brock Besser would not be part of that team. Like the worst case scenario for the Canucks was to sign Brock Besser. And it's the exact same thing with Rasmus Andersson, the Flames. The worst case scenario is that they feel like they have to sign him out of desperation. And like just the whole idea, like, oh, what if they get off to a good start? What do you mean? And what if you think they get off to a good start? You're going to sign Rasmus Andersson to a 7 or 8 year contract. What does the first 2 months of the 2025-26 season have to do with 4 or 5 years, 6, 7, 8 years from now? It has nothing to do with that. Why is that even a conversation? Like, what's going on? Like the media here has got to step up and start telling the truth here. Like, the best thing for this franchise is to trade Rasmus Andersson. By the time they're good again, they're truly good, Andersson will be well into his 30s, and that contract will be an albatross. You can't sign Rasmus Andersson. I don't care if Andersson wants to stay. I don't care if the Flames want to keep him. They can't do it. And it's just like, when I hear that stuff, and like Craig Conroy, make up your mind, dude. Like we've seen this play out with Elias Lindholm and Noah Hannafin and Chris Tanev and now Rasmus Andersson. It's like he's on his hands and knees, like, oh, like please stay. We're gonna offer you like a gigantic contract. Please stay. And it's the players making the decisions for Conroy, not Conroy making the decisions himself. And that I don't like that. I really don't like that from the GM. I think Conroy's done a really good job so far, but like that aspect of his job is a little upsetting. It's just like, dude, make your plan, stick to it, and don't let your players decide what happens. Like, you decide what happens. That's your job. It's not Rasmus Andersson's job to tell you what to do with him. It's like, that's your job. And it's just like, make a plan, stick to it, and be decisive. And it's not happening right now. But like, just that whole conversation of like, well, like maybe we'll keep him. Well, I guess maybe we won't. Well, maybe we'll keep him. Well, you know what? Maybe we won't. It's like he's like picking rose petals. Like, does she love me? Does she love me not? Like, step up and make a decision, please.
And you got the Flames media though also cradling the situation
completely,
trying to paint the situation as not like the Noah Hannafin situation. It's like, you want to know what? This shouldn't even be a conversation. This shouldn't be a topic. You talked about the best time for what the best course of action for the Flames to do. They've missed that boat. The best thing they should have done was trade Rasmus Andersson as a 2-year rental way back in the day.
Absolutely.
They should have used the draft as an opportunity to say, hey, if you want Rasmus Andersson this year as a rental, here you go. Give me your best offer. And make the move. Make the trade. Pull the trigger. And if you wanted to sign Rasmus Andersson, what you should have done is gone back to the table that same week and made that deal and signed that deal then, and leave the distractions off the table so that none of these conversations happen. I love Conroy. I love 99% of what he's done. I dislike how he's handled the Noah Hannafin situation and now the Rasmus Andersson situation, because it's exactly the same. This guy's turned down a trade because he wouldn't sign there long term. Who the hell cares? He only has 6 teams that he could block a trade to. You go to the other 20 some odd teams and you go, listen, Rasmus Andersson, 1-year rental. Who wants him? What's your offer? And make a deal if that's the route you want to go down. But to have this conversation now, we're going into camp, and I tried not to have the conversation of the trades and all that as part of but it's just like it's a distraction. And this is what happens when you talk Rasmus Andersson and the Calgary Flames now is it goes to, well, what's the future? What are they doing here? Do they trade him? Do they sign him? Enough is enough on these kind of conversations, right? Like, we've had so many of them and too many of them. Make your decision and maximize what you can get for them. And the Flames have decided they're going to keep him in town. If they get off to a good start, they're not trading this guy. You cannot convince me, no matter how many articles Eric Francis writes about the Flames are going to trade Rasmus Andersson, no matter where they are in the playoff race. I think is a bunch of crap, because I think they're going to get to the playoffs. We've seen this movie before. They'll be in 9th spot. They'll be 1 point out. It'll be the trade deadline day, and Murray Edwards will say, go add someone. I'm not letting you trade Rasmus Andersson.
He's our own rental.
Exactly where I was just about to go there. We've seen this before. So now you have put yourself in a situation where it is a distraction now. And so fans are wondering, what is Rasmus Andersson, but what's his trade value at the same time? And that's not a great way to do for your fans. Like, fans keep guessing and second guessing now. Can we rely on Rasmus Andersson to be a good player for 20 games or 40 games, however long he's still here? Or does he end up signing that long-term contract? And then we're wondering, well, what does 35-year-old Rasmus Andersson look when we're in the new building and we have all these young, exciting prospects coming through? And he's blocking the job of Hunter Bustevich, or he's blocking the job of Henry Muse down the road. What are we going to think of Rasmus Andersson there? You're putting yourself in a harder situation, all because you want to be 1 point better and make the playoffs. You paint yourself into a corner here with Rasmus Andersson. So as good as a pro as Rasmus Andersson can be, and as much as the Flames are trying to say the right things in the media, they've missed their opportunity, in my opinion, and now put themselves in the worst possible situation. Because we're in 4 months here, what's the conversation going to be if the Flames are in a playoff spot? You can't trade Rasmus Andersson.
I'm scared to see what those conversations are like.
100%, me too. And if we get to that point of the season and the Flames are in a playoff spot and the Flames are talking about if they should trade Rasmus Andersson or not, I will come back on this podcast and you will hear this almost exactly the same rant over again come March, because I'll say the exact same thing. They've missed the boat.
Oh, they totally have. I mean, they should have traded him like 2 off seasons ago. That's what like a team that's in a retool/rebuild, they would have saw, okay, Andersson's got 2 years left on his deal. He's this age. He's going to need to sign a massive deal. Let's trade him while he's got
signed Uyghur.
three playoff runs in him, or 2 playoff runs in him. And then you don't have to worry about this whole bullshit conversation about will he sign a long-term extension or not so we can get the most out of it. You wouldn't even have to worry about that because it wouldn't have been a conversation. The last thing I'll add to this whole conversation here. The part that I don't like, and the part that kind of upsets me, is like the difference between And like the long-term implications of signing some of these UFAs and not is massive. Like look at Elias Lindholm. Like they offered him a massive contract to stay in Calgary. The difference between signing him to that deal or trading him and getting the package that you got for him changes like the whole course of your franchise. Like look at the package they got for him. Like they got Matt Gridden out of it, Hunter Brstevich out of it, Misa. Like they got a whole bunch of really good players out of it. Or they could have signed Lindholm to that deal and had $8.5 to $9 million on your cap for the next, 7-8 years for a guy that can barely crack 50 points anymore. That's a huge difference. Same thing with Noah Hanifin. And now the same thing with Rasmus Andersson. Like what you could get for Andersson compared to signing him to that long-term contract and the implications that's going to have on your cap moving forward changes the course of your franchise. This isn't like Craig Conroy going like, well, we might keep him. And like with Hanifin a couple years ago, when it was like after the first 3 weeks of the season, they're like, yeah, they're close to signing him. And then it was like, well, then they had a rough couple games, so now they're not going to sign him. And then like a few weeks later, well, I think we're going to sign Noah Hanifin. Then they have a few bad games. Well, maybe we shouldn't sign him. That just bothers me so much. And it feels like the same thing is about to happen with Rasmus Andersson here. Make up your mind. Like you're in a retool, trade your old pending UFA, and bring in prospects and bring in things that are going to help you for the future. Like stop like, being so indecisive with this decision. It drives me crazy. And to me, it's so obvious. I don't like why is this such a difficult thing for Craig Conroy? I don't get it.
It's trying to play too nice and trying to still be friends with the players, right? I think that comes down to it. I think Conroy,
totally.
That's the one thing he still needs to learn as a GM, that you've got to separate your friendship and you've got to pull the trigger here. And I like Rasmus Andersson. I think he's a great hockey player. We watched him grow up in this Flames organization after they drafted him and he had those weight problems and all that stuff. We've watched the growth of Rasmus Andersson. I like this guy too. I don't want to see him traded. But the second they traded and signed Mackenzie Weegar to a long-term extension and then decided to go down a retooling path, the writing for me was on the wall. You can't have 3 or 4 30-plus-year-old defensemen on your roster when you're trying to retool, rebuild your roster. You got to have space open so when players are ready, they can fill those roles. And we're going to see it a little bit here with Zayne Parekh. Yes, third pairing probably best for Zayne Parekh when he starts his NHL career here, but we're going to see Zayne Parekh grow through this season. And if Rasmus Andersson's still on this roster, Zayne Parekh cannot move up this lineup unless they move someone to the left side. And you're blocking your kids that are ready to play in the National Hockey League, ready to take on more responsibility. Stop being so indecisive. Stop letting the players make the decisions and be a manager. Manage your roster. This is part of the process, part of the business. You got to do it. And that's where we are with the Flames here. So we'll see how that shapes out. But for
if Andersson, if like the Flames were in like a Stanley Cup contention window, like a real cup contention window, say for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, different story.
Completely different story. We're not even having this conversation. Like you said, like we both think Andersson's a good player. Like I think Andersson's like a top 35, top 40 defenseman in the league, which is outstanding. Like I think the guy is a good player. And I would want him if the Flames were a veteran team and they were in their contention window, but they're so far away from that point. It just doesn't make sense to keep him.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. All right, let's move on here and keep the show rolling here, Robert. Your second storyline you've been watching here.
I just want to talk about Zayne Parekh.
Well, let's do it.
Heading into training camp here, my expectations, I was trying to manage expectations. I didn't want to get too excited about this guy. I know how talented he is, and I know the type of player he can be, but at the same time, he's 19 years old. Just be cautious. And I was expecting Parekh to maybe have some struggles here, just because like I said, he's 19 years old. There's I don't even remember the last time a 19-year-old defenseman went to the NHL, played a full season and played really well. I'd have to go back and look. So I'm trying to manage my expectations. But then I watch every game, and he's just getting better and better and better, and he's creating more offense than any other Flame on the ice. And now it's at a point where I'm just he is way better than I thought he was going to be at this age. He's been dominating these preseason games. Some of the plays he's making is just mind-boggling how good they are. He's catching his teammates off guard with some of the passes he's making to them because they're holy shit, how did this end up on my stick? They're not even ready for it. he's been so good. And also, like, heading into the year, like, I thought, like, okay, the Flames, they're probably going to protect him. Like, they'll sit him on opening night. Like, they don't want McDavid and Draisaitl to go to town on him. And, you know, he's probably going to play in the second power play unit for, you know, the first 3-4 months of the season. They're going to ease him in. I'm like the complete opposite now. I'm like, this guy should be quarterbacking power play 1. He should be in every night regular. He should play 82 games on, you know, especially once Anderson's traded, then you'll move him up in the lineup, but start him on that third pair at 5-on-5, play him as the number 1 power play quarterback, and just unleash him. Because I'm not even argument here, in my opinion. He is the most talented player on your team right now, particularly from like an offensive generation standpoint. Mm-hmm. His vision, his skills, the way he makes plays, the way he walks the line, the way he skates, he is the most talented player on this Flames team. So I went into training camp thinking that the Flames are going to treat him with kids' gloves, and you know, that might not be the worst thing. I've now flipped to, if the Flames treat him with kids' gloves, then they're idiots. They're stupid, because he's so good, and you need to take advantage of this kid's skill set, even as a 19-year-old. Like, I've been just so impressed with this kid throughout training camp here. It's night and day compared to what he was last year. Like, he looks really, really good. So I just wanted to shout him out and basically say that my expectations have changed for him this year.
Robert's over there talking like he's talking about his favorite boy band. He just loves this guy and loves what he brings to the table. And it's hard to fault Robert on it, because you watch Zayne and you watch what he brings to the table, and I kept my expectations low as well. And he's clearly making the hurdle for it. And the biggest thing for me is, we heard in his draft year and all last year about the defensive side of the game. He's got to work on this. He's got to work on that. And you watch preseason, though, and I'm like, what are you guys watching?
It's not even that bad.
He makes mistakes, but his recovery is incredible.
And everybody makes mistakes. Mackenzie Weegar led the NHL in turnovers last year. Rasmus Andersson made a million mistakes last year, but you don't hear anybody talking about that.
I was going to go with the low-hanging fruit. You look at Jake Bean's mistakes. Are they any worse than what Zayne Parekh does? Like, this guy off puck has shown a lot of growth in the last 2 years, going up to the draft and through the draft. The growth off puck for me has been one of the biggest things that's jumped off the page for me. I like watching defensemen without the puck, seeing how they work the game, how they integrate themselves, their skills in the game. You watch guys, and this is no shades and no disrespect to these guys, but guys like Lane Hudson in Montreal, phenomenally offensive guy, won the Calder for a reason, but defensively, he's still struggling. He's still trying to get this together and that together. Zayne Parech's already doing that kind of stuff. He's already fixing his errors. He's already finding ways to make himself better, and he's learning from those mistakes, and he's having such an incredible preseason that will feed this guy the minutes. If he can go out for another shift, put him out for another shift. Like, this guy is taking every hurdle given to him, and he's jumping over it like he's a pole vaulter. This guy, he knows what it takes. He's learned a lot from last year's training camp, where, in his own words, he was not good. And he's learned from that. And that's really good growth from this guy. This is going to be a great player in this league for a long time. And I think you're looking at a guy, and I'm not going to call him Makar and Quinn Hughes, but he's got all the tools to get up there in a top 10 offensive defenseman type situation in the National Hockey League. He has all those skills and all that ability. If he continues to progress the way he's doing it, I don't have any doubts that he'll get there one day, and probably sooner than later. Zayne Parekh is a great call by you, Robert.
Yeah, I put it out on Twitter the other day. I was like the guy he kind of reminds me of is Rasmus Dahlin, because, you know, like with Makar and Hughes, like I saw a lot of people saying, like, you know, Parech's like Quinn Hughes. I'm like, Quinn Hughes he's like such a better skater than Parekh is. He's kind of quite a bit more dynamic, especially on his edges, and then like same thing with Mikhail Makar. So I don't think that's really similar, but like when it comes to Dahlin, just with like the way they work the blue line, their spectacular set of hands, the plays that they can make, you know, they're both good skaters. They're both like very smooth skaters, but they're not like electrifying like Hughes and Makar are. And I'm like, I think that's actually a pretty good comparison. And if Parekh could get to that level, like Rasmus Dahlin's probably like what, like a top 5, top 8 defenseman in the NHL right now.
He's underrated for sure.
Yeah. Like if Dahlin was playing in another market, he'd probably be regarded as the third best defenseman in the league. But if he was in New York, he gets Norris votes last year. I would agree with that. I would totally agree with that. But like that's the kind of level like I can see Parekh getting to. Yeah,
I like the comparison. Yeah, I haven't really thought of an NHL comp for Parekh myself, but I do like that comparison. I really do. He's just a guy he's smooth. He thinks the game well, incredible vision, and he knows how to get things done. He knows how to make it go offensively, and he knows how to make sure that he's in the right position defensively. Yeah, absolutely. He's 19. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to have a growing curve. Absolutely. But why not do that on ice in NHL games? Because I think that's the level he's at. To send this guy anywhere other than the Flames lineup every night, it'd just be, I think, foolish by the Flames.
We are going to burn the Saddle Dome to the ground if he's not quarterbacking the first power play unit to start the year. I will lead the charge. I'll be like that Simpsons meme where everyone's like walking with like their torches. I'll be leading the charge on that one.
Because I know how the Flames work, I'll give them till American Thanksgiving on that one.
You're probably right, but that would be just such a short-sighted, brutal move if they were to do that. Because Parekh is, like I said, he's the most talented player in your team. Like it would be nuts if he was not the quarterback on PP1 to start the year. It'd be nuts.
Yeah, I agree. This kid is exactly as advertised through his draft stock, through what the Flames have been talking about this guy, and so I have no doubts that he's going to be an everyday NHLer, and he's going to be good for a long, long time, and it would serve the Flames very well to put this guy in the lineup and just don't feed him all the minutes, but feed him really good amount of minutes and just let him feast on the power play and make it power play 1, please, to make sure Robert doesn't burn down the Saddle Dome. New building's not ready yet, Robert.
Hey, to finish off the episode here, like I know we each have like one more training camp storyline, but let's talk about Lomberg, because I think this is a really interesting conversation. And just quickly, I think my last training camp storyline was Morgan Frost. I thought he's looked incredible and dynamic, and his playmaking has been incredible. Like I think he's tied for first in preseason points. Like
yeah, he's been so good.
I just wanted to shout him out quickly. I actually think he's been really good.
Yeah, we'll save my last storyline for next week's episode because I think it's a good conversation to have. But yeah, Morgan Frost has been really good for the Flames, and it's a good shout out by you. But I want you to lead the charge on this Ryan Lomberg conversation. This is a really good point by you, and a really good conversation. I think that isn't being had anywhere.
Yeah, and you know what? Like sometimes I don't blame the media for not wanting to bring up sensitive subjects, because like they're in the dressing room every day with these guys, and you know, it could make it like pretty uncomfortable if they're saying stuff and the players are hearing it and then they're calling them out. Like, I get it. You know, I totally get where they're coming from, but like, this is a conversation that like no one's talking about. And it's just the idea of, should Ryan Lomberg be playing 82 games for the Calgary Flames? Last year he played 80, and the 2 that he missed were for the birth of his child. So like, you know, he would have been in the lineup had that not been the case. They had him as an everyday NHLer. And when you watch like some younger guys, like, you know, Sam Honzek's been pretty decent in the preseason. Rory Kerins has been fantastic, arguably their best player. You got a guy like Sam Morton. You know, like, should they be making room for those types of guys in like a rotation? And the way you do that is through sitting Ryan Lomberg. Is that like such like a crazy thing to say? Like, I know, I get the whole leadership thing, and I get that like every single player in that locker room loves the guy, and he is an incredible leader. But I'm just wondering, from an on ice perspective, does having Ryan Lomberg in your lineup 82 games a year, does that give you the best chance to win when you have guys like I said, Rory Kerins, Martin Pospisil, Adam Klapka, Justin Kirkland, like all these guys looking for ice time? You know, does having Lomberg as part of that 82 game rotation make the most sense? And like the one thing is, like, if they were to sit him, there would not be a better guy to sit in terms of attitude, because you know that Ryan Lomberg would be the best teammate about it. He would be incredible. He'd still bring the energy. He'd still bring the leadership. He wouldn't complain. He wouldn't be a distraction for the team. Like, I'm just thinking out loud, like, because like I'm seeing like a lot of people, like when they're making their opening night lineups, particularly in the media, saying like Ryan Lomberg is a lock. He is a lock to be in that lineup, and I'm questioning that. You know, do you see a world? Actually, I'll put it this way to you, John. In your opinion, like, do you think Lomberg is an 82 game player, or do you think that there should be, you know, like some sort of rotation there? Like, how would you approach it? Because it is a bit of a sensitive subject because of the whole leadership and, you know, how much he's loved in that locker room.
It is, and he's a fan favorite as well, right? So like the fans love him, the media love him,
Totally.
his teammates love him. So it's a sensitive issue. So when you do something like this and talk about somebody like this, you got to take that out of it, in my opinion, and look at it hockey wise. And if you didn't like Ryan Lomberg and he wasn't a fan favorite and he wasn't this guy that, undoubtedly the media loved as well, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It would be, okay, this guy's a rotational hockey player. This is a fourth line guy who can rotate in and out alongside Kirkland, and you would move on with your day. But because he's such a beloved guy, an energy guy, a veteran leader, a guy who's beloved by his teammates, that whole 9 yards there, it's a tougher conversation because you're really taking one of the people that you love to go watch, and he brings a lot to the lineup for you energy wise. You're taking that out of the lineup, and people like watching him do his thing. But at the same time, if you look at it hockey-wise, I like Ryan Lomberg. I like what he can bring. But at the same time, there are games where he isn't out there. He isn't playing a regular shift because you're playing against the high-flying Oilers, or you're playing against a team that is nothing but pace. And Ryan Lomberg can't play that pace game for a full 60 minutes. And so he has less minutes those games. In those situations, aren't you better off putting in somebody else who can skate with those other teams, with somebody else who can provide a little bit more to the lineup than what Ryan Lomberg does sitting on the bench? And so I think it's a very valid conversation. And I don't think it's a bad conversation or a bad thing to suggest that Ryan Lomberg, while a really good human being, a really good teammate, he's just a rotational player at this point of his career. And there's nothing wrong with that. He still provides a lot to you. And if he's in the press box, you better believe he's going to be cheering louder than everyone else in the crowd, because that's the kind of guy he is. So a sensitive issue for sure, because we love him and he's beloved in the dressing room. But at the same time, hockey-wise, sometimes you got to make a tough decision. And this is one of those, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I'm not like disparaging Lomberg at all.
I love the guy.
Like he's one of my favorite people. He's probably one of my favorite people to be with the organization in like the last 5 years. Just like the stuff he does on social media, like that schedule release video when he was dressed up like Rambo.
Oh, so
good. So good. Like stuff like that. Like he's great on like the chase. Like they consistently follow him around because he's just such a legend. Like there's so much to like about the guy. But like you said, when it comes to just pure hockey, does it make sense to mix in a Rory Kerins every now and then? Does it make sense to have a fourth line with, a little bit more skill rather than just that grit? And like, if the Calgary Flames are playing against teams that are a little bit bigger, a little bit tougher, play the hell out of Ryan Lomberg. But like you said, if they're playing teams like in their bottom six, if they're more kind of speed and skill, then throw in a Kerins and give him a chance. Throw in a Sam Morton, see what he can do. Like, and the same kind of goes with Justin Kirkland too. Like, I'm not necessarily sold that he's an 82 game player, because like he's a bit of a journeyman. He's 28, 29 years old, coming off a brutal knee surgery, and the only real success he's ever had in the NHL was last season for like 15, 20 games. So to assume that he is like an 82 game lock as well, I think is a little far fetched as well. Like, you had mentioned just that rotation. Like I would throw in like Pospisil, Klapka, Kirkland, Lomberg, Kerins, maybe Morton, and you kind of work around those guys. And you might even throw like Farabee and Sharangovich in there if they're not playing well. And have that rotation. Like I think that makes a little bit more sense than saying Lomberg is a lock 82 games a year, because I like the energy he brings, and obviously like he sticks up for teammates, which is great, but you take a look at his counting stats last year. What, he scored like 3 goals and 5 assists or something like that. Like it was not a very good year for him.
Yeah, and people talk about this guy like he's a 20 goal scorer, and that's just not who he is. And again, you need these type of situational players to win hockey games. You need these players to provide you a little something on the bottom part of your roster that, say, your snipers at the top of the roster. Like Matt Coronado's not going out there and pushing around Mappe Rempe. Like, this is not his game. That's a Ryan Lomberg type of thing. And he's going out there and he's going to play these guys. And so you're playing a heavy LA Kings team. Ryan Lomberg's a great fourth liner to have in there. He's going to go out there and he's going to push his weight around. But you go up to Edmonton and you're playing those high flying wingers. Ryan Lomberg's not the guy for that job. Rory Kerins, like you mentioned, might be the guy for the job. Maybe it's a Pospisil type game. There's many ways to win a hockey game and to play a hockey game, and to have a rotation is not a bad thing. It keeps some of your guys fresh. It puts guys in situations to be successful, and it's just a good hockey management way. So people are going to hate that we're suggesting sitting Ryan Longberg for, I don't know, a dozen to 20 games this season. But at the same time, might be time for that, because this is where he is in his career. Guys slow down. Guys aren't as effective as they get older. And he's got a lot of miles under his belt, being what he did in Florida with them for a couple seasons. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with it whatsoever. And I think these guys know their role on the roster. If you go to them and you talk to them about this kind of stuff, give them that role, and he's still going to give you 1,000% every night when he's in that lineup too. And that's what you want from a guy like that. That's what Ryan Longberg brings. So that's what Ryan Longberg is.
And he was a healthy scratch in Florida.
Yep.
Like during that cup run that he was a part of, he was a healthy scratch for a large number of those games. Like, I'll take a quick look here. Like, did he even play in half of those playoff games there? Let's see. Yeah, he played in 13 games in that playoff run he played in 8 games with the Florida Panthers in their championship run. So, he barely over a series. So even in Florida, like, he was still the same guy. He was still that guy bringing energy, and he was still that amazing leader. But even they were like, we might be able to get a little bit more out of this group if you're not in the lineup, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. Like, there's nothing wrong with this conversation. I really hope people aren't like, these guys hate Lomberg and all this kind of stuff. I really hope that's not the case, because we're simply talking about not playing 82 NHL games. Like, that's, the guy's still an NHLer. The guy's still an important member of the organization. And I hope they re-sign him after this season. And I hope he stays around, because I do think he's like an important part of the city and community now. But at the same time, it's okay to not play 82 games.
If people want to hear me talk bad about a player versus this conversation, go back to the episode where I give Miramanoff a couple of bars. That's John talking about a player he doesn't like. This is not that, definitely.
I don't know if I've ever heard anyone talk about a player as poorly as you talk about Miramanoff.
I'm sure he's a great guy, but I just don't get me started, Robert. I think part of that too is the trade. We got rid of Noah Hannafin, and if anyone listened to my old podcast, they know how much I stuck up for a lot of what Noah Hannafin brought to the Flames lineup.
Yeah, and that trade is looking like a disaster right now.
Yep.
They got to hit a home run with that Vegas pick, whether it's via trade or they actually make the selection. They got to hit a home run, because if they don't, that deal looks terrible. Because Hannafin's like a top 30 defenseman in the NHL. I mean, he's on Team USA at the Four Nations, and to only get a first and Miramanoff for him, like, that's ugly.
I didn't like it as well, because, and not again, it's not just about Miramanoff, but the 3 or 4 prospects they traded after Miramanoff to other teams that we could have gotten are much nicer than the one that we got. And it's a 26-year-old.
Hasn't worked out, unfortunately.
It's not the best, so we'll see what they do. Maybe that we'll talk about this maybe on another podcast, but maybe that first overall pick is part of a trade package to help bring in a left side defenseman or something like that. Maybe down the line here, the Flames use that as a trade bait if they're in that situation through bringing somebody else. But they gotta do something with it rather than let Miramanoff be the lasting impression of Noah Hannafin. Anything else you want to bring up about the podcast here today, Robert, or tell the folks where they can find you and what's coming up on flamesnation.ca from you?
Yeah, that was a great episode.
Yeah,
basically broke down the entire training camp. So yeah, that was fun. And the Lomberg conversation is one that should be had. It really should be, because, like we said, we love the guy, but at the same time, it's like, should he really be in the lineup 82 games a year, especially when you got super talented guys like Kerins and all that. So I'm happy that we had that conversation. Hopefully Flames fans, respect that and appreciate, being able to talk about those types of things, because I don't think you'll be able to get those at, some other media outlets. So, but yeah, at flamesnation.ca, we just kicked off like our player expectations articles. So I'll have some of those coming out here pretty soon, which is going to be exciting. And yeah, just continue to follow along on X for Zayne Parekh highlights throughout the preseason here, because those are blowing up. I had a Zayne Parekh, just him like making a really nice pass, like it got like 150,000 views. Like, it's just this guy's magic. Like, people love Zayne Parekh, so
yeah, they do.
Keep following along.
That's Robert Munich at Ring of Fire CGY on social media. I'm Vintage Johnny 84, and of course the show is at Red Mile Rundown wherever you do your social media talking around and listening, we are there, and we are doing the same thing as you are. We are the Red Mail Rundown, your favorite place to get all your Flames action. Please tell your friends and families, and don't forget to give us those 5-star ratings and reviews wherever you do download the podcast at. We appreciate everyone and for the support. We're excited. Preseason's almost over. Next week when we talk, Robert, we're going to have final rosters. We're going to have regular seasons on the horizon, and it's going to be an incredible time to talk Calgary Flames hockey. Looking forward to it. Have a great week, everyone. Appreciate you. And enjoy.